whole thing, I just was thinking about how am I going to bring up Tim? And the watch, I don't know if I had to choose like an object. I guess what it means for me is like Tim, more than anyone else I know, has the strongest grasp of the present time. He just seizes the moment with people. He appreciates his time with family and friends and anyone that he sits down next to. He is not intimidated by really anyone. He seeks them out, sits down next to them, finds a way to connect, and pretty soon they're like laughing, and Tim has like a dinner invitation for Friday and I don't have anything to wear, and it's just baffling that he just finds a way. He's just unstoppable. He, maybe if some of you don't know, he is just in the last 14 years has really grown so much in this whole field of marketing. He's just really learned all the parts and the pieces, and he knows this inside and out by studying books, people, business strategies, leaders. He's like so excited. He recently, in this area took a company from just a concept to like widespread global volume and sales, and I'm just so proud of him, and I know you guys are too. Thanks for being here today. This is such a big deal. Tim has a lot to share with you today, so get ready. Here he comes, our marketing navigator, Timothy Schmidt. All right.
And the crowd goes wild. All right. The power of the opening line, right? The power of the opening line. Who knows what the goal of the opening line is? Grab attention. What else is the power of the opening line? What does it mean? Why do we use an opening line? What is it? Gain trust. What else? Anyone?
Interest.
Gain interest. Am I interested in this topic at all, right? What other ideas do you have? The power of the opening line. I'll take one more. What is the goal? Let me restate it. What is the goal of the opening line?
Make them want to talk to you longer.
Make them want to talk to you longer. Well, I think there's a wonderful book. See, I'm one who studies books. I study storytelling. I think I'm subscribed to about 25 or 30 of the top storytellers in the world. I read their stuff. I read their content because stories open you up. They expose you. They expose things, right? I actually had a friend of mine that was a coach for a little while, a short while, and this person once told me, he said, you don't need to read books. Get your head out of books. You don't need your head into books. And I kind of felt like Belle on Beauty and the Beast, which, by the way, my wife, if you put side-by-sides next to her, she looks just like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Keep telling her that. She always laughs. So anytime we're at the store, Target, whatever, I'm like, hey, kids, look, it's Mommy on the shelf. They're like, oh, Mom. So it's kind of funny. So anyway, but no, this gentleman told me, you don't need to read books. Books are a waste of time, but I highly disagree. Okay, if you're not in a book right now, just find a good one. There's 3 of them at the front here. You can pick up any one of these. They're all great for marketing. You can definitely start with this one, but listen to this. I'm not one to read a whole lot from a book, especially in a presentation mode, but this is called The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. By far my all-time favorite book. In the back of all my books, I stamp when I read them. This particular book was stamped in 2003, so just a wonderful book in 2003 that I first picked up. But here's the opening line. The opening line of The Dream Giver. It says, ordinary embraces his big dream. Not long ago and not far away, a nobody named Ordinary lived in the land of familiar. Every day was pretty much the same for Ordinary. In the morning, he got up and he went to his usual job, and after work, he ate almost the same dinner he'd eaten the evening before. Then he sat in his recliner and watched the box and mesmerized most nobodies on most nights. Sometimes best friend came over to join Ordinary in front of the box. Sometimes Ordinary went to his parents and they watched together. For the most part, not much happened in the land of familiar that hadn't happened before. Ordinary thought he was content. He found the routines reliable. He blended in and he was content. And then he realized that mostly he only wanted what he had, until one day Ordinary noticed a small, nagging voice and feeling that something big was missing from his life. Or maybe this feeling was that he was missing from something big, but he just wasn't sure. That little feeling grew, and even though nobodies in familiar didn't generally expect the unexpected, ordinary began to wish for it. The power of the opening line is simply this, is it's just like that story there. There's a gentleman by the name of Joe Sugarman, which I've got his book as well called Triggers. And Joe Sugarman told me this. He said, Tim, if there's one thing I can teach you in the short time that I've got with you, is this one thing. Understand the goal of the opening line. And the goal of the opening line is to get people to read the second line. I'm like, that's it? That's it? He said the goal of the opening line is to get them to read the second line. So what do you think the goal of the second line is? To get them to read the third line. And then can you get them to read the fourth? And can you get them to engage with you? And so you're trying to create engagement. And in this book over here, Triggers, there's 30 different topics that he covers and marketing strategies that he goes through that are just absolutely wonderful, and I would highly recommend them. So finally, to kick things off, we've got this little candle here, and it's called a, Mandy, what is this thing called? It's like a candle by the hour. It's a little promotion. I always like to have things that symbolize new beginnings, and there's nothing better to symbolize a new beginning than a candle. We use them in our weddings. And so in a lot of our videos and things that you'll start to see and notice, you'll see this representation of new beginnings based on this candle. And it's a candle by the hour. It's a pretty cool little representation. So that kicks things off for us. So welcome. So if I would have started any other way, I would have lost most of you to your iPhones or your iPads or computers or whatever it might be. So I kind of kick off and I pack a bit of a heat. But this for me, this is my daily experience. This is my daily experience every single day. So this is my son Dominic up on top. He's 8 years old and he's growing so fast. And actually, he's going to be turning 9 this year, and it freaks me out because when I met my wife, she was her younger brother was 10, and now here we are married, and we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary, and here he is, and he's almost 10, and that time went by like this. So there was one time I was sitting at a conference. Her and I was in Amway at the time, and we went to a conference together, and I was sitting next to her, and I said, this is our first conference together. I said, we'll never forget this moment. And a matter of fact, there will always be times that will take us back to these very times that we're together, and it's a snap. And I looked at her and I said, anytime I snap my fingers, it's going to bring us back to this moment. And sure enough, every time I snap my fingers, I think of that moment. And I think there's pivotal moments in your life that come up, experiences that you experience that are just pivotal, that just change things, that are just very dynamic and very destined, right? And they seem like they happen overnight. And so there's a lot of things we'll be covering today about timing and about how time can change that. Mandy, my water's back there. You want to grab that for me? And so it's just right there, Mandy, on the table. So timing is very important, and how we propose our timing and how we market is going to be very interesting. So there's a few things about getting our mind right. First off, I'm all in shambles here. First off, if anyone needs the Wi-Fi code, 6795 is the code. Okay. Thoughts? How many of you ever thought up an idea? Right? Especially any of us who are entrepreneurs in here or marketing people, all have ideas, right? We have great ideas. Sometimes we don't write them down. But I highly recommend, anytime you get an idea, carry a little notebook with you. There's one in my jacket sleeve all the time. I just pull it out and I just jot it down and I put it back in my pocket. On the mind, off the mind, and I can think about it another time if I need to. Write it down. Because you never know what that could transpire into. For me, a little idea on a piece of paper was in one person's head, came to me, and all of a sudden the Rolga was born, right? And before I knew it, within 6.5 months, this little idea that started on a piece of paper got me in front of Jillian Michaels, and I was signing autographs with Jillian Michaels on this Rolga roller. How does that happen? right? Something that goes from an idea. How can you go from somebody like that and then all of a sudden just from a little table at a Starbucks coffee in town to being up on a table and meeting somebody like Jillian Michaels in front of her and then she's signing it? Well, Mandy did say that I do try to get into doors, strange doors, and that was a strange story there. So I can go around and say that I got the opportunity to meet Jillian Michaels, but I didn't get the opportunity to meet Jillian Michaels. I made the opportunity to meet Jillian Michaels. And sometimes the things that we need in life, we have to be willing to get up and go after it. And we have crazy ideas. The idea started in my head, this thought that I'm going to meet Jillian Michaels because she's at this show that I'm going to, so I must be able to. She's there, I must be able to. And so I started speaking, and I started telling everybody that. So I started talking about translate your thoughts into words. And these words become very powerful because they actually start to turn into what I consider beliefs. This board is kind of bouncy. Can you all read that? That's okay, it's scratch. So it turns into beliefs. And once you believe something, you can start to achieve it. You can start to go after it. You can start to take action to make that happen. So here's the story with Jillian Michaels. I'm believing that she's going to be somewhere where I can meet her. That she's signing things, because Casey Ho was there, she was signing at a table, and then Jillian Michaels was coming in. Well, no, she's going up on a stage, and she's backstage. She's not coming out front. She's not meeting anybody. She's just going to go on stage. So I watch, and I'm like, she's got to be somewhere. Well, there's a curtain, and then there's a little door open in the back, and I could see, and there's 2 security guards standing there. I'm like, well, she's obviously back there. So I'm standing there with 2 Rolgas on my back, look like a jet man, you know, getting ready to shoot and launch off. So I'm standing there, and all of a sudden this little guy, squeak, 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 squeak. He's got a cart full of food. And his guards, no, you can't go back here right now. You can't. Oh, yeah. No, I okay. He's pushing it through, and he pushes it through the curtain, and these 2 guards follow him. I look around, there's nobody there. Floof, right through the door. Bop outside, and I'm like Kramer, you know, I was bam, like hi, and then there she is standing there, blah, blah, and all of a sudden I lose my words. I didn't know what to say. Guards were all over me, and I was freaking out. I'm like, Jillian, I just wanted to say hi, you know, acting like I knew her forever, you know. I should have said, hey, Jill, you know. And so all of a sudden she's like, oh, no, it's okay. So she's telling the guards, don't worry about it. Hey, come over here. And she was so nice. She was so sweet. And then she gets out on stage and she's just badass, right? And she's just all like drilling people and cussing and swearing. So sometimes you just got to get out there and make things happen. But that signature on that Rolga went a very long ways because I got my picture with her, got the signature. You know, we got to talk about it, and I got to tell that story in many different aspects, and that was able to gain a lot of traction and get us in some eventually even cooler doors. So sometimes you just never know what little keys and transitions you have. But we got to follow some of these things here. And then our actions become our habits, and this is where we fail in our actions. Habits then become our character. Mandy's like, you got to get off that slide. Our character, and then our last thing is destiny. Our destiny. So we choose what we think about, we choose what we talk about, and then we choose what we believe in, and then we take action on those beliefs, and we got to have this what I call willingness to fail, a WTF mentality, right? This WTF mentality. There will be a book coming out on that, but WTF mentality, willingness to fail. And then if we can get through the failure moments, that's when we can start to, that foundation of failure is what's going to really develop us and allow us to learn and grow and be who we are. But we have to be willing to win and lose with that same enthusiasm. Marketing. Finally. No, we're all here to talk marketing, but it's very, very important to understand the basic foundation, the basic fundamentals about how to be positive and how to be willing to win and lose with the same enthusiasm and being able to find ways that we can navigate through life without losing that. I actually brought this with me as well. If any of you need to, Danny Smith is in the back. He's got this talk called How to Carve a Duck. And if ever you need that little motivation, it's always good to have a CD in your truck. And one time I got this CD from Denny, and I just keep it in my car. And when I'm kind of driving, I'm feeling down and out, I'll pop the CD in. Sometimes in life, too, when we're doing everything that we're doing, we never know when we're changing someone's life. It's sometimes those little moments in time that we change someone. See, God's given us all a lot of great gifts. And what's unique about that is that sometimes the very gifts that we are given, they aren't even meant for us at all. They're actually meant for us to go out and share and go out and tell someone else or go out and give away. Just like all this marketing information. I could keep it, store it, hold it. That does no good. It's time to give it away because that unlocks potential, right? And that actually opens more doors in creativity. So, I don't know. I often start out a little bit fast and hard. I hope that's okay with y'all. You all come here to learn something. Is this okay? Gaining something already? Okay. So now some of you wrote down questions, right? Did all of you write down some questions, or any of you write down some questions? If any of you are willing to share, I'd love to hear just a few questions that some of you have, and I'm not going to answer them right now. I just want to hear what some of the questions of preparation were. Anyone?
I wrote down a question. What's the best, most effective marketing tool that you use in your business?
Wonderful tool. Wonderful question. What's that?
Newcomer service.
Yeah, newcomer service. Anyone else have a question that they thought of? Or one that you could even say, yeah.
What are different things that you have seen fail more than, because you've gone through different businesses, and what are things that you've seen everybody says, oh, that's great, but you're like, yeah, no.
Right. Yep. Some failure moments. Absolutely. Anything else? Yeah.
I think a clear definition between marketing and advertising.
A clear definition, and you're definitely going to get that today. Yes.
I was just thinking, what story do we want to tell?
What story do you want to tell? Awesome. And these are all really great questions. And so one thing that I'm going to tell you is all these questions will get answered today. And if they don't get answered, see me after. No, I'm just kidding. No, they all will get answered today. So marketing, let's kick it off. So marketing is simply this. It's a series of patterns and events, right? Who wants to mix this up for me? Series of marketing. Marketing is just a series of patterns and events. And see, a lot of times, like I even talk about the thoughts, words, beliefs, habits, and actions, these are just series of events that happen in our life. Now with marketing, there are building blocks that we have to address in order to set things up. And we're going to be covering all of those today as well. That look good?
Well, and then I'm putting it back together.
Now you're putting it back together?
I don't know.
You want to mix it just a couple more times. Just slip and turn it. So what I want to share with you is that at any given time, if you're doing something, so throughout this meeting, I'm going to be fidgeting with this Rubik's Cube. But throughout time, if at any point in time something doesn't come together in the order in which it's supposed to come together, then it's not going to come together. You have to put it together, the pieces, the way that they're supposed to be laid out. So in the Rubik's Cube, the Rubik's was actually invented in 1974. It was brought into Hungary. So it was invented in Hungary. And how many of you remember when the Rubik's Cube kind of hit the U.S. and people were like, oh, what is this thing? So you got some people back there, right? And all of a sudden it was like showing up on fitness channels, like people were doing these weird things with it. And it just kind of caught fire for a really strange reason. And really it was just a professor, a college professor. All he did to invent this was just to teach his students how to just the planes and access points of how a Rubik's Cube works. So what you do is you just basically go through, and because I'm very dyslexic in nature, I was actually sitting in high school at one point in time in a cafeteria, and a friend of mine was busting this together really fast, and I said, well, how in the world can you do that so quickly, and what are you doing? And he says, well, it's just a series of events and patterns. And I said, well, that's cool. I could learn that. So I sat down with him one day and I just started to learn it. And it took me a few months to start to put it together. But once you start to understand how the hands and things move around it, then you just realize that it's really not that difficult. And so with marketing, it's all in the same thing, is that we're going to address it with a series of events and strategies. Yeah, so there it's all put together in that sense. You bring this over this way. That looks like everything's in place there. We drop this down, turn it, flip it, strap it.
My friends just took the stickers off, so I was hanging around the wrong crowd.
You were hanging around the wrong.
Had no clue, right?
I don't know why. I just messed it up, but I did something wrong there. There we go. Get it back together here for me, Tim. But I'm going to fidget around with this throughout the day here. I got my hands all jumbled and it got mixed up. So here, we'll just flip it back together. See, you have to be willing to fail, right? Willingness to fail. It's a good point. Good lesson. I'm not going to sit up here all day and do this for you guys. Next piece. All right. Marketing versus advertising. Who knows the difference between marketing and advertising? Who's got it? Who out there can tell me what is marketing?
Calling me out, maybe.
What is marketing?
Marketing is the controlled communication to consumer.
All right. Controlled to consumer. What else is marketing? Who else knows what marketing is? That's a good one. It's definitely what it is.
Like building your brand.
Building your brand. Can you elaborate at all?
I would say advertising is more trying to get people to buy your goods and services. Marketing is more the goods and services, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know. That's
Cool. So let's cover it. What's the difference between advertising and marketing? And then I'm going to slide back this down for a little bit. Erase this. But notice how, like, even with that Rubik's Cube, I messed up a little bit, right? I turned one dial the wrong way. And it messed it all up, and I had to start over. Guys, I did that on purpose. Here's why I do that. I do that because I want to show you that just because something slides out of place that's not supposed to be there, it's okay to start over. And sometimes it's okay to go all the way back to the beginning to make sure that you get things right and put it in the right foundation. Because if you get just 1 degree off and you're flying an airplane down to Florida from St. Cloud and you're 1 degree off, guess what? You're going to end up somewhere in the Gulf Coast. So you don't want to do that. All right. This is marketing. This is advertising. Drawing out for you in a few short seconds. Here's a dentist. Right on the other side of the street corner, guess what? New dentist. Who's upset? Dentist 1 or dentist 2? All right. You're not supposed to turn your back to people if you're a professional speaker. Well, guess what? I isn't a professional. There we are. So we've got these 2 dentists. Now one is going to represent advertising. And one is going to represent marketing. The guy that's advertising over here, guess what? He puts up a really nice sign or flag that says, "I am a dentist." And he's got really nice stuff on it. He also has a really nice sign out front. You know what? He even has some radio jingle. Shows that he's very established. And he has this little puppet guy that stands outside that looks like a tooth. And he stands out here and he says, everybody, go here. That yes, I'm going to call that just yes. Yes, this is good, right? Go here. So he's advertising. Would you say if you pulled up in a car at this street corner and you heard Dentist 1 on the radio and you've been seeing billboards and ads, would you go to Dentist 1 or Dentist 2? Dentist 1, right? Because you're hearing it. It's established, right? Now let's just say that a friend of yours goes to Dentist 2. And they're happy. Now we're talking word of mouth again, and yes, this takes a long time, right? But they're going there, right? Then all of a sudden another guy, he decides he's going to go there too. And then before you know it, you got another one out here, and another guy. And someone over here. And before you know it, people are like climbing your roof to like tell everybody. Some guy standing up here in a Superman cape, and he's saying yes. And there's a guy sitting here, and he says, yep, definitely, check these guys out. And now your little vehicle comes pulling up here, right? And then you're looking across the street, and these guys are all saying, definitely go here. And then this guy over here is playing some radio ads, and he's got a fancy billboard. But all these people are screaming and shouting. These guys are awesome. Where are you going? Going to number 2, right? Because this guy has done a really good job of establishing relationships. So marketing is relationships. Advertising is putting the flag up the post. It's I am this, I am that. So these are your relationships, and these are your advertising. And so what I often like to ask is, how does your brand tie into relationships? Because see, everybody that walks around in our world, they walk around with a shingle hanging around their neck that says, please tell me I'm important. And if somehow your brand can let them know that they're important and that they matter and that your product can help them and solve a problem or make us, take some solutions, then your marketing will work. Well, why do I talk about the difference between advertising and marketing, and why do they work so synergistically well together? Because now, watch this. Again, you can always take something from good to great, which I'll show you with that little Rubik's Cube a little later. So now you take this advertising and this marketing, and now let's say now this guy comes in here, and he also puts up a flag that says, we do dentistry, and he puts together a radio jingle, and he's got ads playing, and he's on newcomer service, and he's over here with putting screen time up and putting advertising on television screens and such, and he's all over town. So now he's got marketing all over and people also talking about it. Now who are you going to, right? And now who's going to last longer no matter what the market does? Let's say now your advertising budget has to come down because the market takes a tank or something happens in your business or something catastrophic. You lose your hand and you're a dentist and you're like, oh my gosh, right? What are you going to do, right? What's the backup plan? Well, this guy will continue to grow and continue to sustain himself because now he can pass that on to generations. Marketing is relationships, plain and simple. And if there's one thing that you can take away from today's entire meeting, is marketing is relationships. Marketing absolutely is relationships. And advertising is simply the sign. It's simply telling people what you do. So advertising becomes an expression, and also marketing is that back to that relationship again. All right. There's a few things here. So effective marketing is going to build relationships between you and also your customers. You and your customers, meaning that you physically, you're going to humanize your brand a little bit in some cases, in some aspects. They're going to want to feel a people-to-people type presence. Customers are also going to want to relate with your brand. So they're going to want a people-to-subject or people-to-object type relationship, right? So you definitely want to have a customer relationship with your brand. And then customers and their networks. So they're going to have relationships outside of your brand. I mean, when people were talking about the Rolga product at Thanksgiving dinner and and people were placing orders over Christmas for family and friends and buying 10s to 15 of them at a time, this was their network, right? It became a part of who they were. It was very relatable to them. So like all relationships, it's a process. Just like I was saying before, this whole thing is going to continue to come down to a process, which requires ongoing validation. And we're going to talk a lot about validation. Because think about this. How easy is it to validate an idea nowadays, right? You want to know, are guns okay? You can find plenty of validation online that guns are well okay. You want to say that guns are not okay? You can find plenty of validation online to say that guns are not okay. How about Democrats versus Republicans? Who's better? Who's right? Who's wrong? Well, you can find plenty of validation online in a moment's notice from your cell phone if that's all right and good, right? Makes sense? So ongoing validation is something that we continually get fed all the time. So no matter what is out there, if you don't have a solid marketing plan established, they're going to validate it very quickly with somebody else. So very, very quickly. They can see through the cloud of smoke, if you will. So I want to play this a little bit here for you. We're going to come over here. We're going to talk about this guy's website later. It's a good little segue about relationships. I saw this on Facebook.
That doesn't want relationships.
Hold on. Get right to there. There we go. All right, now we're good. Has anyone seen this video before? Oh, this is going to be good then. This is going to be our
We
second.
want a second cup of coffee in our Instagram.
All right, here we go.
We're the generation that doesn't want relationships. We want a second cup of coffee in our Instagrams of lazy Saturday mornings. We want a second pair of shoes in the artsy pictures we take off our feet. We want that Facebook official relationship that everyone can like and comment on. We want the post that wins relationship goals. We want that date for Sunday morning brunch, someone to drown our sorrows for the Monday blues. We want that Taco Tuesday partner, someone to text us good morning on a Wednesday. We want a +1 for all the weddings we keep getting invited to. How did they do it? How did they find their happily ever after? And we're the generation that doesn't want a relationship. We swipe left in hopes of finding the right practice should order our soulmates like we do on Postmates. We read 5 ways to know he's into you and 7 ways that she will fall for you, thinking we can upcycle a person into a relationship like a Pinterest project. We invest more time in our Tinder profiles than we do into our personalities, yet we're the ones who don't want a relationship. We talk and we text, we Snapchat and we sext, we hang out and we happy hour, we go to coffee and grab a beer, anything to avoid an actual date. We private message to meet up, small talk for an hour, only to return home and then small talk via text. We forego any chance of achieving real connection by mutually playing games with no winner. The only thing we end up winning is most likely to be alone. We want the facade of a relationship without the work of a relationship. We want the hand-holding without the eye contact. We want the teasing without the serious conversations. We want the pretty promise without the actual commitment. We want to celebrate the anniversaries without the 365 days that lead up to them. We want the happily ever after without the effort in the here and now. We want to have deep connections but still keep things shallow. We want that World Series kind of love without willing to go to bat. We want someone to hold our hands, but we don't want to put the power to hurt us in their hands. We want to be swept off our feet, but at the same time remaining safely, independently, standing on our own. We want to keep chasing love, but we don't want to actually fall into it. We don't want relationships, we want friends with benefits. We want Netflix and chill and nudes on Tinder. We want everything that will give us the illusion of a relationship without an actual relationship. We want the rewards with no risk. We want the payout with no cost. We want to connect enough, but not too much. We want to commit a little, but not a lot. We take it slow, we see where it goes. We don't want to label things, we just go with the flow. We keep one foot out the door, we keep one eye open. We keep people at arm's length, toying with their emotions, but mostly toying with our own. When things get too close to being real, we run, we hide, we leave. We say to ourselves, there's more fish in the sea. We want the downloadable person that's a perfect fit, just like an app that you can update whenever there's a hitch. Compartmentalize into a folder that we can delete, and we have no more need for it. We don't want to unpack our baggage, or worse, help someone unpack theirs. We hide everything behind an Instagram filter. We choose a Netflix show over a real conversation. We feel entitled to love like we feel entitled to full-time jobs out of college. We want a placeholder, not a person. We want a warm body, not a partner. We want someone to eat with while we scroll through our news feed. See, what we need to recognize is that the things that we truly want, the things that are deeply meaningful, the things that are genuinely fulfilling, all require patience. They all require work. They all require energy. See, the challenge is we all want to be with someone who makes us happy, when what we need to do is be someone who makes us happy. We sit with our friends discussing the rules, but no one even knows what game we're trying to play. Because the problem with our generation not wanting relationships is that, at the end of the day, we actually do.
Pretty powerful, pretty cool. And I just think that's a great segue because, let me get this thing shut off here first. And why do I like that so much? Because there's a few things with that. Before I dive into the relationship side of it, there's a, first and foremost, how often have we been, so way back when I was part of the medical fitness team and Rejuve Medical and everything many years ago, almost 10 years ago now, or 5 years ago. Started up so I started that 11 and a half years ago. So I got started with them. Who were they targeting? They were targeting baby boomers, right? They were targeting baby boomers. And they were targeting people that were a class between 45 and 55. Okay, well, their message has not changed. in 12 years, right? Or in 11 years. Hasn't changed. Still targeting the same message. But what has changed? The way people look at relationships, right? That younger generation is now starting to move up into this other class, but the same way that we were communicating with the 45 to 55-year-olds then, 10 years ago, we can't communicate with them the same way that we have to communicate with the next generation taking ownership of that slot, correct? We have to find other ways to communicate with them. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into this and start to think a few things here. And just, I want you guys to just kind of pair up and share. And if there's 3 of you at a table, just turn around one behind the other. And just ask yourself these few questions. And you're going to just kind of throw them past each other based on your business. How can the purpose of dating and marketing be similar? And then also, how has the purpose changed, in the new generation? And what effect can this have on marketing today? So why don't you go ahead and kind of flip around, and we'll just take a minute, and we'll go ahead and kind of just, I'll kind of ding the bell, if you will.
20 seconds a question.
Yeah, 20 seconds a question. So you guys can turn around this way, because I don't want the 2 of you paired up.
We don't want to be together either.
No. So how can the purpose of dating be similar?
Compatibility?
Same interest.
Oh yeah, here, let me grab that.
Mutual, right?
Okay, why don't you jump into question number 2 or 3 if you're already on? I need the memory card.
I'm going to get a little bit of them talking here. Like really engaged with each other.
Yep. Cruise around, snap some photos.
Can I do video a little bit?
Yep, and then when you do video, you push there, and then you just push this button up here when you go. Yeah, either one. Either video, push the red button. Then also some still shots that aren't moving. Yep, just hold it for about 10 seconds. And then by now you should be on your last question. Or done.
Purpose changes the new generation. Can you explain?
Yeah. So one of the questions here is how has the purpose changed in the new generation? So how has the purpose of relationships changed? How relationships are viewed changed? Okay, and now we're going to switch it up. One last question. I'm going to now throw at you after you have all this good going on. What does this mean for your advertising? How is this going to affect your advertising? Now remember, we were just talking relationships. How is this now going to affect your advertising? Like, what's it going to do for advertising? It got quiet. Well, maybe we just continue as a group with that one. So, what were some of the ideas or things that were shared? Was there any kind of ahas that anybody had about their specific business with that video in mind, or with this younger generation of how we have to kind of start to adjust our messaging based on communication styles?
I think that's what we came up with. Because, I don't mean to steal the floor here.
Great, do it.
The first one, in looking at the answers to the first one, in both cases, dating and marketing, you're looking, testing, and building relationships. So looking for them, testing them, and the ones that you like, you're going to build on. And the second one, we just said no.
What was the second question again?
What is the purpose? Can you go back to
Yeah, what was the purpose? How has it changed? So what is
Has the purpose changed in the new generation? And we basically said no because human beings haven't changed in 10,000 years. They still are looking to have fulfillment in that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so that's what must be met. But the third question is, as we looked at meeting the communication desires, I can't call my daughter-in-law and have her answer the phone.
Yeah, right.
I have to text her. And so my preferred method is phone. But if I want to build a relationship with her, I'm going to have to be open-minded and adaptive, and adapt to the way she wants to communicate. And so I do. Mm-hmm. But so I think that's the way we kind of looked at it, is there is no difference between human beings, but there is a difference between how their generation connects with each other, and that's what you have to pay attention to.
Couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it any better.
Do the rest then?
Yeah, why don't you just take over? No, really, that's why we do these things. That's why I like doing with a Masterclass, it's not just all about a presenter presenting all the time, right? You need to have breakout sessions where you brainstorm with other smart people, right? The only reason why we are where we are today is because we've connected with other relationships, and they have validated our thoughts throughout our life, who have helped us get to where we are. And if we've struggled or needed help in certain areas, we would just adapt and move throughout, right? We'd start to adjust our ways through it all. And so that's what's really exciting about all this. So yeah, absolutely, Dave. And so what he's alluding to is that nothing really has to change except the way we do our advertising. We're still going to build our relationships similar. I mean, the structure of our needs and the structure of how we're going about things is going to stay the same, but how we communicate with them has to change. So mobile advertising, how does your website look up against a cell phone? My traffic from our website has now switched from, it used to be desktop heavy, and then it started to creep up mobile, and then all of a sudden mobile started to kind of level out. Now I'm 85% mobile viewed, and just down at the bottom there with desktop views. So it's very interesting how some of those things have started to change. So it's very important that we understand a lot of those pieces. So now there's a little envelope. You can pass the envelopes out on your table. And so we just and if you need a little bit of coffee, you can grab a little bit more coffee as well. But in this envelope, I want you to go ahead and open it up, because we're at the final 45 minutes here. We're going to come down the ski slope. We've come up to the pinnacle moment. We're going to come down the ski slope and really take it home. But what I want you to understand going through this now is that in the future, we're going to continue to do these. Okay, we're going to meet as a group. There's been lots of individuals that have said, hey, I want to get together with you. I want to pass ideas off you. I'm a do-it-yourselfer, but I want to just continually gain the knowledge, and I want to break down each of these areas. So I'm going to be covering a lot of areas here. I'm going to be going through a lot of details, and I'm going to be taking, like I said, that structure of marketing, and I'm going to lay it out. There's going to be a lot of holes. I can't cover everything in 2 hours. So what are we going to do? Each one of these avenues we're going to break down over time throughout the next year. So over the next 12 months, we're going to meet once a month at the end of the month. If Wednesdays don't work for the whole group, we can adjust it as we go. But what we're going to do is we're going to start by going last Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 o'clock. And so the structure is going to be very simple. There's going to be some inspiration. There's going to be a very structured topic that's going to be covered for a good 45 minutes. And then there's going to be case studies. There's going to be hot seats. There's going to be businesses that we're going to be working on your business very specifically in. So we're going to say, okay, what are you troubleshooting and what are you trying to overcome? And we're going to adjust it along the way, and we're going to help you adjust and get through those things. So I wanted, as Agency 511, 511 is a number of new beginnings. So if you Google what's the meaning of 511, you'll see it's a number of new beginnings. And so I wanted to be able to take people through new beginnings. but I wanted to do it affordably. A lot of times in startups, how many of us have millions of dollars in startups to get started, right? I wish that happened. Because I'll tell you, Rolgas, we gave away almost 7,800 Rolgas in the beginning, which is a full container load, $20,000 worth, just poof, gone, just burnt up in the sky, right? But it's a strategy that works with a product that works. You just give it away. Just like marketing, you just give it away. And so what I'm trying to do here is for $99 a month, let's say I can't commit, right? Some people have troubles committing. There's some people that just, that's the way they are. It's okay. If you can't commit, just come when you can, $99 a month. Now, if you want to commit and say, you know what, I'm going to show up, I want to make this a focal point of my business, and I'm going to go post to post, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'll go post to post with you. It's just $50 a month. I mean, what, $49 a month. I mean, I've gone to functions and events in the Amway business where I spent $900 on a weekend, okay? So, I mean, there's education that's very valuable that will come with that. Plus, you'll continue to learn from there. So my candle has just extinguished, which means I'm halfway through. All right, you guys ready? So that's some things you can consider. If that's something you'd like to do, you can register and back with my wife after the class, or see me, or just if you have to get going, write your name on it, and then just leave it here. I've got all your contact details, and I'll just send you the invoice, or we can get it taken care of. All right, so how do we take this from a good situation to a great situation, right? So this, most people would say, is complete, correct? This being complete. The Rubik's Cube now complete, right? If you take this and you just make a few simple adjustments, not a whole lot, just a few simple adjustments, you can make it look something extraordinary, right? It can look different, and now you've got little circles and little holes. And why I say that is because in our business, we want to be able to fine-tune it. Sometimes we may be dialed into the station 98.9, but we're dialed in at 98.8. How clear is the station? You can hear it, but it's not crystal clear. We want to dial it in. Let's talk about the psychology of ads. And we want to remember those human needs. You already mentioned it, Cowboy Dave. We've got this Maslow's needs. We've got psychological needs, safety needs, belonging, esteem needs, and self-actualization. I'm not going to get into psychology. My wife is more into the psychology stuff. I don't understand, or not understand. I don't want to get so deep into this to confuse everybody with where to go with this. But just remember that there's those basic needs, and you kind of want to tie in your product and your brand with those needs. So if you want to look it up, Maslow's pyramid, just write that down. There's all kinds of great graphs on it. But you got to understand the foundation of where this stuff comes from. So we desire something, and it comes between this little bit of logic and emotion. So again, I turn my back to you all. I draw myself a little brain. Give him my ears. Some hair out here somewhere. Okay, so we've got this, and over here we've got logic, right? On the left side of our brain is logic. We get a thought, an idea hits us, and we say, what are we going to do with this, right? How many of you have ever purchased a new car? A used car, a new car, whatever one, a car, right? And when you were looking at cars, you're like, what's unique, what's different about these cars? And you're studying all these cars, and you thought, man, I've never seen this car before. I love this style. It's a new model. I'm going to take this one. And you take it off for the first time. You're driving it down the road, and you're going, hey, there was one. Hey, there was one. Where did that one come from, right? Yeah, this isn't so unique anymore, what I thought. That can happen because you're starting to become aware, right? And you're creating awareness. Now, when we get these same needs, these same desires within us, we have to go and validate, right? So we bridge this gap over. We find things, there's audio. You know, audio is a very captivating. I love radio. If you know me, I love billboard. I love radio. Your billboards are wonderful as well because they're indoor billboards, indoor signage. Anywhere where you can have some of those things. I just absolutely love radio and billboard. And the reason why I love it is because you get both the audio, the auditory sense, and you also get the visual sense, right? You get this guy over here kind of looking with his little telescope. And so he's looking, he's searching, and then you get your audio going. And so what starts to happen is you start to connect. It's called the synaptic gap, and you start to connect all these little synapses until you start to say yes. And you start to research it more. You've got enough self-validation that you seek out expert help. And so now you go and find an expert. And you say, okay, Mr. Expert, I'm the expert. I know more than you know, but I have this validating idea. Can you show me how to get it? And they go, yeah, that's a good idea. Or, I've actually got a one-up on that. I think you could actually get this model. It would be better. It's cheaper, and it's even, or not necessarily cheaper, but it's better for you, for your situation, what you're looking for. Happened with me buying a camera. I thought I was going to get a Canon 7D. Talked to a friend of mine. They said, actually, I think you should get an Alpha 6300. It's a Sony. It's mirrorless. You get more time on it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh, okay, sounds great. So this need comes along, and they bridge you back across the gap from logic and emotion back into logic to say, completely validated. And you buy. And so throughout these stages, there are 3 buckets. There are 3 types of people in this logic emotion that we start to see. And we'll cover these in a minute as you go through these thoughts. So here's my wife, right? Here's how she goes through it. She says, she gets a little notification. And then this little thing keeps hitting her. And then she goes, oh my gosh, isn't that totes adorbs? It'll be worth the money, won't it? Yeah, I'm so captivated by this awesomeness. I must have it. I can't live without it. I'll die without it. Yes, I'm really ready to buy. I don't care how much. Just get it to me. Tell me how to buy. And then, hey, I didn't get a chance to look at all the angles. Yes, there's still two more left, but you need to get it now. Better wait. And then, no, she ends up buying. Said to be continued. I said, no, you bought that thing. All right, so there's 3 consumer phases, and these are the phases that I want to cover and talk about with you all. So when you're doing your advertising and marketing, make sure you're within these 3 realms when you're trying to judge how successful your campaigns are going. Kaylee, have you ever had someone in radio put together a great branding campaign and then go, I just didn't get I didn't get the amount of calls that I was hoping for, right? Yeah, well, you're doing a 15-second branding campaign. You're not going to get the phone's ringing off the hook, right? Okay, so you got to be able to judge your goal based on these 3 buckets. Where is your consumer and who are you talking to? So from these wants and needs, there's going to be the first one, which is going to be your education bucket. And then the second one here, there's going to be contemplators. And then the last one is going to be your action takers. And so every campaign, every marketing scheme that you set up, everything that you put together has to revolve around these 3 buckets. Because you're either going to have people that have never heard of your product before. I'll tell you, the first year of selling Rolgas, nobody knew what they were. Nobody had a clue. Even just, okay, this was a really good example. I went to the mall, right? I was in the mall, set up a kiosk. I thought, how great is this? If I go to a health fair, I'll sell 12 an hour. All I need is a constant people coming past. So I go and I thought, what a great idea. I'm going to set up in the mall. There's a constant flow of people. I'm going to sell hundreds of thousands of these things. So I get it set up in the mall, and I'm standing there, and people are walking by, and they go, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's a foam roller. Well, what's a foam roller? I'm going, well, you roll on it. For what? For your muscles. Why? I'm like, oh, gosh. So I'm like, okay, I guess the market is not ready for me in the mall yet. And then, and it didn't relate to me that I would be having to, flip cars to people and, be doing all that as well. But boy, did I have to educate. And I had to find a way really, really fast to start educating people. I'll tell you, my first days at the mall were not positive. I failed hard. I failed really hard. And there was no sales coming in, nothing. And a matter of fact, I had other people lined up to work the booth at the mall, and they went there and they went, I'm not going back there. It was like they saw a ghost or something. They said, I am not going back there. So these people now, once you educate them and really truly understand what you're doing, you get them into a contemplation phase. So now it's your responsibility at this point in time in your marketing campaign to take them through all the problem solution scenarios, right? This is where you're going, you've got the education, you know that it's a need of yours. But now here's all the sides to it, all the different angles. So like you saw in my wife's little text there, but hey, I didn't see all the angles. I didn't catch it all. You're kind of going back and forth, and you've got to contemplate with them. You see, we no longer think for ourselves. Yes? We no longer think for ourselves. We are taught how to think. And so the same thing in your strategy and in your marketing, teach people how to think. Don't say, do you have back pain? Say, you have back pain. Tell them, you have back pain. We have a massage roller. Okay. And that's what I had to do at the mall. When they were in contemplation phase, I had, Mandy, how many of those signs did I print? Probably 15 different signs, 25 bucks a pop. Crown Press sure loved me. I was bam, 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 $25. And I kept hammering them out because you have to try, fail, and adjust. Try, fail, and adjust. Again, that WTF mentality, right? And so there I am putting up new posters, putting up new posters, putting up new posters. Others were telling me, oh, Tim, come on. You don't have to change it up. It's no big deal. It's just the wrong crowd that day. Just wait for the right crowd, wait for that timing. No, the message was wrong. There were contemplators that were there that were passing up that opportunity in that situation. But once I got them to the point where they saw it, it recognized, right? Back pain, back roller, saw the image, roller on the back, we have massage tool. Great. They knew exactly what to do with it. Now when they came to me, I still approached them, but once they saw it, they recognized, they approached, they talked to the expert, and bam, they were starting to buy. And it started to click. And all of a sudden I was having 12, 13, 14 sales a day, 15 sales a day. And then my other guys would go in there, and they'd sit at the chair, and they'd have 1, 2, and they weren't really trying to help with that contemplation phase. So not only are you trying to do it visually, but again, you have to do it auditorially. You got to start to connect and hold hands and bring people through that relationship. So contemplation, you're still selling. But the action phase, that's the easy button. That's just, bam, they're ready to buy. Show me how to get it, right? Show me the money. Show me where to spend. And those are going to be your 3 phases. So in these goals, your education phase, how do you judge it? How do you predict how successful your campaign is? Well, if you know going in, setting your goal, that my goal is to be in the education phase, you're going to understand that you're going to spend extra money. You're going to have to try to come up with some seminars. You're going to have to come up with some video series. You know what's working right now? YouTube. Beyond measures. YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you can start working those strategies, it's amazing. You want to know what's dead and what's not working, what's broken right now? Facebook. And you know what it is? Remember the 49ers? What were the 49ers? The gold rush people, right? There's gold in California, and they were killing people. They were running across town trying to do everything they could to get to the gold rush. Well, guess what? People are doing the same thing on Facebook. My opinion, Facebook is dead, and that's a big statement to say, but Facebook is dead. Now, Facebook is still good in the sense, not in getting new customers, not taking them through these phases. Facebook is really good for post-sale, for after the know, like, and trust, after they understand who you are. Once you gain that following, because what are you doing after the sale? And we'll talk about that. So our education is awareness. That's our goal there. And then we want to make sure that in our contemplation phase, they're on the fence, like Humpty Dumpty, who pushed him off, or did he just fall off? We want to know what side of the fence, because Cowboy Dave said it really, really well. Do you want to work with the right people, or do you want to work with the wrong people? You can sell people into your business and service, but if you sell them in, they're going to be a struggle to work with. If you get the right people in there, they're going to be a joy and a pleasure to work with. Yes? Okay, so that's what we want to do. We want to push them off the fence. Just tell me yes, just tell me no. There's some people that couldn't make it here today. That's great. Just tell me no. That's all right. There'll be other ones. And then the ready to take action people, all you have to do, your goal is basically just, is it working? You can basically tell if there's action takers. So what are you going to notice through these 3 phases? In the education side, you're going to see video views go up. You're going to see in interest, you're going to start to hear community chatter grow. You aren't going to see a whole lot of sales trend. Then when you get into this contemplation phase, you're going to start to hear the chatter increase. You're going to start to get opt-ins. You're going to start to have people kind of connecting with you. Your sales are going to go up a little bit. And then once you hit into this action phase and everybody's kind of doing it, the Rubik's Cube mentality, right? Or things just start to catch fire and people start doing it all over in weird places, then it just becomes very easy. Where do I get that thing? Whatever that fidget spinner is, how long did that last, right? And how many of millions of those products came out? So that's going to be kind of in that sense of how do you kind of gauge and how do you judge that. So one thing I want to tell you all, which isn't in my presentation, but it snapped in my head. And if it snapped in my head, I'd like to talk about it. And I think, Angie, this will kind of go into the pitfalls. Pitfalls, what have I seen, right? In these many years of doing this and growing companies very fast. And I tell you, companies like Rejuve Medical, Rolga, even RestPro, when I was there, these companies exploded. And it was just, all it was relationships and great people got behind things. So watch this. This was a pitfall, though. I know it happened at Restoration Professionals, not to call them out. But I love their company, and they're still down in Minneapolis, and they're an amazing company. Watch this, though. All right, so here's time, continuum of time, and then here's a continuum of sales. Okay? And this is the S curve, right? And so everybody goes through this in your business. You release a new product, takes education, 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 contemplation, and bam, you get action. And then it kind of levels off. Televisions went through this like 400 times, right? The tube screen, the non-tube, you don't have to adjust it. No tuners, flat screen, digital, flat, plasma, 4K, HK, and it just keeps going. And every time they do that, they reinvent themselves and they create a new curve, right? And so this is what we call critical mass. That's when everybody's taken the action in critical mass. So our goal is always to get from here, the hardest push, and where most inventors, most people that come up with products, come up with great ideas that become an idea in a notebook, they go through this continuum of time, and nobody knows what that continuum of time is. That can be called X, and they get through this phase, and they really struggle, really struggle. Most of the time, they hang it up. There's a great story by Dale Carnegie. He talks about Robert Schwab, and they bought a gold mine. And in this gold mine, these guys were digging it and mining it for almost 15 years. Well, in the 15th year, they said, there's no gold here. And they just cashed in, and they sold it for like $3,000 to Charles E. Schwab. And the guy went in there with his mining equipment, a couple of guys start chiseling away, and they went 3 feet and hit gold, and hit one of the largest gold mines up in Alaska. How great would that be? What a good investment, right? So those are one of those things that you just never know how close you are, okay? So failure moment number 1, you could quit too early. The second phase here, this is where all the hard work comes in, you're still building it, but you start to gain traction, you start to get excited. And then you hit this critical mass point, and we don't know how long critical mass is going to last. And sales are going crazy. Well, guess what? All the experts and all the smart bankers and all the smart people come in, CEOs, executives, and they come in and they say, hey guys, check this out. We've got this amazing growth going on right now. Let's plan a huge new building, a new build out, and we're going to go ahead and put this new complex in place. Or we're going to go ahead and launch this new marketing campaign, or we're going to join these new mastermind groups. And bam, they project that because, you know, in 1 year, we're going to be doing this volume. And they project themselves way up here. Well, guess what? They roll out of critical mass and they start to plateau and they have to get into this reinvention phase, which really kind of puts them back here. And how long will they last, right? And so now they've got this scary gap going on. And that gap can become very problematic because now you're cutting marketing, you're cutting advertising, you're cutting budgets to try to pay for, like people can get house broke. You're starting to pay for the building, you're paying for the expenses, you're paying for everything else except what you should be doing, the customer, right? And so this is when a company becomes money conscious instead of relationship conscious. And that's been a big failure move in a lot of companies that I've seen go through. And I just want to protect you from that because the more you learn about marketing and these relationships, invest in the people before you invest in the brand. Grow the people and the relationships strong so that you can maintain a longer this and a critical mass, and then you don't get yourself in this gap. Everybody good with that? All right. So let's keep going. I'm going to hammer through this. So put yourself in a customer's shoes. I'm not going to go through these things. These are just some examples. Through storytelling, I'm going to get in your heads for just a few minutes here. And then once I get on to drawing out the actual marketing plan, we got 10 minutes into that and we're done. But I just want to share this with you guys. So how do we release some of these, what I call happy hormones, into people's minds in the story? So dopamine. Can I get into your mind? Can I unlock the door and walk into your mind for a moment and release some dopamine? So I want to tell you about the worst day ever I had in sales, like ever in my whole career. So I got this call and I was actually really excited to go in and meet with this new client. They called me up the day before and said, hey, can you be down here at 8 o'clock? I need you here at 8. If you can be here at 8, I think I've got something great. We need to talk. So sounds good. So I cruise down. I'm happy. I'm whistling, tooting, listening to great stuff. Get down there and I'm 5 minutes early. I walk in, I sit down, they greet me, they bring me a water. Things are looking great. The gal comes out, she opens the door, says, hey Tim, we're ready for you. I said, we're ready. I thought I was meeting with you. So she comes back, she says, I got great news. The entire board of educators are here. They're going to meet with you. This entire board is here. But there's a problem. And she goes on to tell me this horrible problem of why I shouldn't have been there that day. So now that you all have dopamine released in your head, you're freaking out going, what did she say? There's no end to the story, I'll tell you. You're all let down. That's dopamine, right? It creates this focus, this motivation, this memory. That was horrible. Some of you were so into that. But this focus, motivation, memory, it creates a recall. So remember that person of mine that said, hey, you don't need those books. Get out of those books. Matter of fact, he bought me a Christmas gift one year. And it was a subscription to like a SparkNotes, but as a subscription to all the success help books that are out there. And it lays it all out. All you have to do is type in the title of the book, and bam, all of the bullet points of what you're supposed to learn in the book are all bulleted out for you. Well, guess what's missing in that? The release of dopamine, the release of serotonin, the release of endorphins. Why are the stories in those books, right? Why can an entire book be written around the power of the spoken word? Because you need those things ingrained in your mind to trigger and release other ideas. When you're working in groups, why do you work in a group? Because it releases new ideas, it sparks new things. Oh, their story inspired another story. Stories inspire stories. And you got to have that. And dopamine does that to us, right? It's a good, happy hormone. So to increase this, we want to build suspense, create cliffhangers, and then also captivate by storytelling. Generosity, trust, and belonging. So this is our oxytocin. Again, do you mind? Can I get in your head a little bit? So this is oxytocin. So I want to tell you all a little bit about why I do Agency 511 and part of what it is all about to me. So way back in 2003, I had an older brother I remember getting up that morning, I was going in and I was getting ready to go to Gander Mountain. I was going to work at Gander Mountain. Now my bedroom is over here. There's a little hallway and then there's a bathroom, okay? And then at the end of the hall is my brother's room. And so I could see him sleeping there, and I'm getting ready and I'm doing my thing. And then here comes my future sister-in-law. She's coming up the stairs to greet him in the morning. And as I'm getting ready that morning, I hear a shriek come from the room. He's cold. And she comes screaming out of there, and I remember people and then chaos, and people started come running up, and so I just ran downstairs immediately, and I just started praying. And that morning, I know my brother went to heaven because I felt him all around me. Fast forward. So now, I was 18 at the time, he was 20. Fast forward. Now here we are, I hit 20 and 3 days old. And I went, I just outlived my brother. What would have my life been worth if I were in his shoes, if I would have left that day? And from that point on, I always said, I'm going to do everything I can to make an impact, right? And so that's really the start of even Agency 511 is my way of giving the gift back to everyone else. So right now, what you all are feeling is a huge increase of oxytocin. And why? Because oxytocin is that you feel human, you feel relaxed. And if your marketing and if your brand can find a way. See, Richard Branson was genius. Richard Branson is a wild card. He owns Virgin Mobile. He's a wild card. He says, tell everything, even the naughty bits, right? He says, tell everything. Tell your story. Be willing to be open and exposed because this makes us feel human. If you can find a way to get your brand to feel human and release that oxytocin in the brain and that dopamine and that serotonin and the endorphins, you've got it nailed. And there's no better way to do it than through storytelling. So again, tell very personal stories, create empathy in characters within your stories. It doesn't always have to be about you, but you can create characters within your story. The stress hormones, the ones you don't want to happen, are going to be your cortisol and your adrenaline. If your ads create cortisol and adrenaline, unless you're selling like something that is for an adrenaline junkie, then you would, like a GoPro camera or something. But otherwise, try to steer away from those. That's what I've heard called the devil's cocktail. Don't mix those together. So avoid releasing these in your marketing. All right. So again, what's the goal of your ad? Build relationships, number one. And there's one more thing that I'm going to have you take away from this whole day. And here we go, last 15 minutes. You guys ready? Okay. You all dialed in? No one needs to go pee or get a coffee? All right. Okay. So last 15 minutes here, and we're gonna be done. What is the goal of every advertisement you have? Drawing customers. What else? Connect. Build the brand. All things we've been talking about. Great relationship stuff, right? Good marketing stuff. What's the goal of the ad now?
Sell something.
Sell something, potentially, depending on your goals.
Move them to action
Move them to action. Where do you want them to take action?
on your products.
On your products, right? Or services. So some people are looking for calls. Well, here's mine. Kind of tricked y'all. The goal of your ad is to get them to your website. I'm going to roll this out very quickly for you. The goal of every ad is to get them to your website. Does everybody in here have a website? Everybody have a website? Does anybody not have a website? If you don't, it's okay because you become the website. Then you become the information person. You become the knowledge person. You take them through contemplation. So some people don't have control of their website, right? Some people might be a salesperson for a company that doesn't have authority or control over the website. Create a Facebook page. Create something. Do something to separate yourself then to be the go-to and be the face for that product. Because you have to be the contemplator. There was nobody better in Rolga to sell Rolgas than Tim Schmidt. Nobody. And I'll tell you, I had to create separation and gaps, and I was able to throw things on the web. I had control of that because I could take them through contemplation. I could take them through all the action steps and what was going through their head. I could educate them. I had to be one in everything, right? So we want traffic to go to a website. So everything, if you can take away one thing from today, extra, beyond this, and again, throughout the next 12 months, we cover all these things. If you can take away one thing, just get your ads to point them to the website. Keep it so simple. Be okay with the use of white space. Just get them to the website. Get them to a landing page. Because once they're there, now what can we do? We can teach them how to think. And we can tell them how to think. So once they're there, I can control how we take them and navigate them through it. So the purpose of traffic is to get them to opt in. Okay? So once they're on your website now, the next goal is to get them to opt in. Now, not once they're on your homepage. So I want to show you this example because it's just a great example of a web page. Training for Warriors. I love, love, love their website. And here's why. Does it look fun? Does it look entertaining? Does this guy look important? He's the brand. This guy is the brand. It's humanized. That's Martin Rooney, #1 motivational speaker in the world for fitness. He's got fitness training centers all over. Great friend of mine now, in my cell phone, working with him today. This guy has got an amazing website. Look at this. This is okay to do on your homepage as an opt-in. People that are coming here, it says, learn more about the TFW system, enter your email to get instant access to Martin Rooney's free 3-part video series. What did I say earlier? What's working really well? Videos, LinkedIn, Instagram. If he's posting Instagram pictures, they're coming here and they're coming into this, they're putting that together. And it's working amazing. This is a great, great thing. Is it easy to navigate his website? You bet it is. Now guess what? There's 3 simple things. I talk about a 1, 2, 3-step process. Can you see what this website is about in 3 words or less? Lose fat, build muscle, feel good. Yep, I know what they're all about. And then I get down here and he starts conversation with me. Hey Tim, what do you want to learn about? Do you want to learn about joining a TFW in your area? Yeah, maybe. Hey, do you want to know about TFW locations, where they're all at, all around? Yep, might. Do you want to see our transformations and our success? Yeah, that'd be important. Or what about this? Get certified. Oh, I could become a certified trainer? Well, that'd be kind of cool. So he gives you his top 4. So with your websites, and what I do is I typically take a little bit more time with y'all, but with your website, just think about that. Can you see what everything is about on your website in 1, 2, 3? And is there a way to connect with you in a non-aggressive way if it's on your homepage? And then also, do you have your top 4 pillars that you want people to get